Okay, in this screencast we're now looking at regular ER verbs and their endings. But what I mean by regular is there are no weird things that are happening with these verbs. It's just a straight up conjugation, cut off the AR, throw on the new endings, and you're done. Okay, now you do have the YouTube video over here that you can use if you want to. This is a link so you can't see it through the screencast, but if you just go out to YouTube and type in Spanish preterite ER verbs, there'll be lots of them, but look for the one by Tontito Frito or Senor Jordan. You might see him named either way that way. He will go through and explain, not necessarily in more detail, just give you more examples than what you see here and kind of help you understand how things are working here. So with aprender, which is an ER verb, and conocer, which is also an ER verb, and you see their translations there in red, look at the endings. You have yo aprendí, accented I. Tú aprendiste, I-S-T-E. So kind of the same pattern here with the AR verbs we saw, A-S-T-E. Él, ella, usted aprendió. Okay, notice that the ending here is important. It's different. When you look at it, it's an I-O, okay, not just the O. It is an I-O, so that's important, all right? Aprendimos and aprendieron. So what do you notice about this? This is an ER verb, and in the present tense we always had E endings, but we have all I endings here. Okay, so keep that in mind for a second. Look at how they did conocer. It means to know or to meet a person. Conocí, conociste, there's that conoció, all right, that I-O. It's important to remember that I-O with an accent. Nosotros conocimos, ellos, ellas, and ustedes conocieron, all right? Look at the IR verbs. Oh, look at this. Take a second and look at the endings of the IR verbs, just that top verb, abrir. Now let's go back to the ER verbs and look at those. Back to the IR. What you should notice is that they are exactly the same endings. So instead of learning 3 new sets of endings, you're only learning 2, because one applies to both ER and IR verbs. So that's kind of nice. You don't have as much to learn. Okay, the last thing that we want to talk about on this screencast here is this is obviously also a reflexive verb. We know it because of the say. We see the pronouns. But in the present tense, this was one of those verbs that stem changed, E to I. Okay, this is a really important statement, so put this in your notes. Stem changing only, I'm going to capitalize that, occurs in the present tense. Okay, big statement, important. There may be spelling changes in the preterite, but not to all the boot forms. And what do I mean by that? Remember that stem changing forms, there were 4 forms of the verb that changed. Okay, if there's a spelling changes usually only occur to a couple of the forms, and not all 4. Okay, that's what makes them different from, and that's why they're not considered a stem changed verb anymore in the preterite, because they don't change in all 4 forms. They only change in a couple. Okay, so this top one, we're going to make that stand out so that you can remember it. Okay, only occurs in the present tense. There may be spelling changes in the preterite, but not to all the boot forms. Spelling changes usually only occur to a couple of the forms. All right, so now that we've said that, let's take a look at this. Yo me vestí, nothing unusual here. Tú te vestiste. Okay, we've still done the same thing. We have our pronouns down, we've conjugated our verb, we're left with our VEST stem, we add the new ending, but now look what happens down here. Okay, we have él, ella, usted, se vistió. Okay, so I have a spelling change here from an E to an I. Again, not stem changing because it's only happening there. But then if we look across the way here, nosotros nos vestimos, VEST back to the VEST again. But now down here, again, vistieron. So vistieron, again, E to I. So that's where that spelling change occurs. It occurs down here in both of these 2 forms. All right, so that's going to be important.